Epiphenomenal Qualia by Frank Jackson. This is the Mary's Room paper. So he breaks it down into four pieces. We're only going to be covering the first two, though, and those are the Fred and Mary parts of the paper. Later in the paper, he talks about Thomas Nagel's What It's Like to Be a Bat and talks about the causal abilities of qualia, but we're not going to get into those for this week. So what Jackson is talking about in terms of qualia is something non-physical that describes what it's like to ... what it's like to itch. Not what chemical causes itching, but what it's like to itch, right? And ultimately what he's arguing against is this position called physicalism. Physicalism posits that all true information is physical information. It's information about the physical world. So he begins with Fred, and Fred is the best color seer in the world because he has this new type of cone in his eye that can distinguish between two distinct shades of red. And these two shades of red are indistinguishable to us, but they are as different to Fred as yellow and blue are to us, right? So we give him a group of tomatoes, and he can divide the red 1 tomatoes from the red 2 tomatoes. And if we were to shuffle them up and give them to again, he would consistently divide them in the same way every single time. And the question is sure, I know, whatever, we figured this out. He has this new type of cone, and we can look at how it affects the nerves in his, auditory or optical cortex, right? But what does it look like? What does it look like? That is something that we cannot know from observing his optical system. So if we were to surgically remove Fred's eyes and optical part of his brain after he died and surgically implant it in somebody who was formerly a normal color seer who couldn't distinguish red 1 from red 2, well, this person would have access to new information. And this new information would be what it's like to see red 1 and what it's like to see red 2, what it's like to see the difference. And all of these things are things that the doctor who implanted the optical system in the person who can now see red 1 and red 2, that doctor has no idea what red 1 and red 2 looks like, even though he knows all the physical information of Fred's eyes and Fred's brain. So he has another example, and it's Mary's Room, the famous Mary's Room. And Mary is an expert in the neurophysiology of vision. She knows everything about light, and she knows what color things are, right? She knows that an eggplant is purple and that a tomato is red, but she's never seen any colors in her life. Mary has grown up from birth in a room that is entirely black and white, and her skin is perfectly white, and she learns all of her neurophysiology off of a black and white screen, and she knows all the way down to the last brain interaction of what every interaction from the light bouncing off of the tomato and interacting with the eye and sending stimulus through the optical cortex, and every little nook and cranny that wave and that interaction goes through, all the way down to the jaw, to me saying the tomato is red, right? Mary has perfect understanding about how all of that works. She knows everything there is to know about how the brain physically works in terms of color. But when she goes outside and sees a red fire truck, which she knows is red because she knows fire trucks are red. When she sees the red fire truck, she knows what red looks like. Not that the fire truck is red, but what red looks like. And this is something that she could never learn from any amount of physical information about fire trucks or about light spectra or about the optical system. So in both of these cases, the Fred and Mary and the Fred implanter, these are all people who are gaining access in some way to non-physical information, and there's really no way of explaining the, well, according to Jackson, no way of explaining these scenarios without invoking some non-physical something, right? Would we say that Mary learns nothing when she sees the fire truck because she knows that it's red? Like, absolutely not. She absolutely learns something, right? And this is the argument. Again, I'm not going to go over the what it's like to be a bat or the causal arguments in the third and fourth parts of the paper, but I will throw the paper into the Discord and What It's Like to Be a Bat by Thomas Nagel, which he references extensively in the third part. So if you guys are interested in that, those will be available. And I will also post my notes in the Discord, so take a look at those. And I am interested to hear if you guys are physicalist or if you're Team Jackson. So I will see you on Thursday.